The night my father texted me, I was standing in my kitchen with a cup of tea that suddenly tasted like metal. The screen lit up with his name, Dad. For a split second, I thought he was finally reaching out just to say he missed me. Instead, I read the words that sliced clean through my chest. "Sweetie, I know I bought you a house, but don't come to Thanksgiving. Your stepmother thinks it's better this way." My thumb froze. My breath stopped. The room around me felt distant, like I was underwater. A house. A gift he never let me forget. And somehow that gave him permission to erase me from the one thing I still hoped we shared: family. I typed one word back. "Okay." But inside, something hardened. Something final. That night, I decided I would never again be the daughter they could exile, silence, or exploit. And what I did next? No one was prepared for it. When I put my phone down, the silence in my house felt heavier than the walls themselves. I stood there for a moment, staring at the reflection of myself in the dark kitchen window, shoulders stiff, jaw clenched, eyes burning in a way I refused to let turn into tears. It wasn't the text itself that broke me. It was the familiarity of it, the pattern, the quiet, polished cruelty wrapped in "sweetie." For as long as I could remember, I had been the daughter who understood, who compromised, who stepped aside so everyone else could be comfortable. My father's comfort, my stepmother's ego, my half-sibling's entitlement, everyone's expectations, except my own. Growing up, Dad used to say, "Bella, you're my strong girl. Don't make things harder than they already are." I didn't vary too, and to be 14 the space persons. Which really meant, don't upset your stepmother, don't ask for space, don't ask for love, don't expect fairness, and I obeyed. Because the alternative was losing him completely. When Dad bought me the house 2 years ago, a fresh start, he called it, I wanted to believe it meant he saw me, that he finally wanted to give me something without strings. But the strings were there. Thin, invisible, wrapped tightly around my ribs. Every visit came with reminders. "You know, sweetie, I really stretched myself for that down payment. I hope you're appreciating this house. Your siblings would have loved something like this." And every time I nodded, grateful, obedient, pretending not to notice my stepmother's cold smile in the background. But the Thanksgiving message? That was the moment the strings cut too deep. I replayed it over and over in my mind. Her voice behind him. Her influence dripping over every word he typed. "Don't come." Not, "We'll talk about it." Not, "Let's figure this out." Just exile. Painless and convenient for them. My phone buzzed again. A second message from Dad. "It's not personal, sweetie. Just don't make a scene." A laugh escaped my throat, broken, sharp, bitter. A scene? I had spent 27 years making myself so small they barely noticed when I was in the same room. I whispered to myself, "You don't get to shrink me anymore." I sat at my kitchen table, forcing my hands to stay steady. My chest ached, not from the rejection, but from the clarity slicing through years of denial. They didn't push me out tonight. They had been pushing me out my whole life. Tonight, I simply stopped clinging to the doorframe. Somewhere inside me, something clicked into place, cold, precise, steady. Not revenge, not anger, just resolve. For the first time ever, I let myself ask, what happens if I stop being the one who always forgives? And that question became the spark for everything that followed. The shift. The confrontation. The unraveling. And the final move that none of them, especially him, saw coming. If you asked anyone on the outside, they would say my childhood was fine. Not tragic, not chaotic, just fine. A nice suburban home, a father who provided, a stepmother who smiled in family photos, 2 younger half-siblings dressed in matching outfits for Christmas cards. But fine is a lie that looks pretty in pictures. Growing up in that house felt like standing behind glass, close enough to see the warmth but never allowed to touch it. My stepmother, Denise, had an effortless way of making me feel like clutter in my own home. Not through shouting or slamming doors. No, she was more elegant than that. She weaponized politeness. "Bella, sweetie, don't sit there, your sister likes that spot." "Bella, darling, could you help clean the kitchen? The other kids have homework." "Bella, honey, maybe don't wear that. It draws attention." Every sweetie was a leash. Dad always pretended he didn't notice. Or maybe he truly didn't because Denise didn't mistreat him, only me. And when he married her, I became the optional child. By the time I was 13, I had learned the rule of the house. Make yourself useful, or make yourself invisible. So I did both. In high school, when I worked part-time jobs to buy things my siblings were simply given, Dad would proudly say, "That's my hardworking girl." But he never asked why I had to work so hard. In college, when Denise suggested I live off campus because the house is full enough, Dad paid for my textbooks but not my rent. Yet he covered my siblings' car payments without blinking. When he helped me buy the house 2 years ago, part of me hoped it meant something had changed. But even that came with strings and reminders. "I hope you're not taking advantage of me, Bella," he'd say lightly, as if it was a joke. I forced myself to laugh every time. But the truth was, I had been taken advantage of my entire life. Not financially, emotionally. I had been the one smoothing edges, swallowing pain, bending until my spine ached just to keep some fragile version of peace. I still remember one day last year. I had just finished a 12-hour shift for my job when Dad texted, "Come help set up a birthday party for your sister. Denise is overwhelmed." When I arrived, sweaty and exhausted, Denise looked at me and said, "Oh good, Bella's here. You can decorate. The rest of us need to get ready." The rest of us. I decorated while they curled their hair and laughed upstairs. That night, my sister blew out the candles with Dad's arms wrapped around her shoulders while I stood behind the camera again, the invisible helper. Dad didn't thank me. Denise didn't even look at me. And I told myself, it's fine. At least I'm included. But was I? Or was I just convenient? Years later, after the Thanksgiving text, I saw the truth clearly for the first time. I wasn't part of the family. I was part of the labor force. And maybe Dad didn't mean to hurt me. Maybe he thought silence was the same as kindness. But silence is a blade, it cuts just as deep, only cleaner. Standing in my quiet house, replaying every memory of every favor, every dismissal, every time I stood in the background while Denise's children shined, I felt something raw rising in my chest. Not rage. Not yet. Recognition. Recognition that my entire life had been one-sided devotion. Recognition that my father had never once defended me, not against Denise, not against exclusion, not even against that message telling me to stay away. And recognition that loving someone who never stands up for you is just another way of abandoning yourself. That night, I realized I had been an afterthought for 27 years, but not anymore. Something inside me whispered, steady and sharp, "Bella, you're done being last place in your own family." And that small whisper was the beginning of a storm. I didn't plan to call my father. I wanted silence to be my answer. But the more I paced around my living room, the more something inside me demanded clarity, or at least honesty. So I called. He picked up on the second ring. "Bella?" His voice was too casual, too normal, as if he hadn't just punched a hole through my chest with a single text message. I swallowed. "Dad, can you tell me why you don't want me at Thanksgiving?" A breath. Stiff. Hesitant. Then, "Sweetie, it's complicated. Complicated." The oldest, laziest excuse in the universe. Before I could reply, I heard a voice in the background. Denise. Sharp. Metallic. Unfiltered. "If she's asking, tell her the truth, Mark. She makes everything tense." "I'm not hosting a holiday for someone who can't behave." I froze. Someone who can't behave? Dad must have moved the phone away. But I still heard muffled arguing. Then he came back on. "Sweetie, it's best for everyone if you sit this one out." There it was. No attempt to soften it. No apology. Just a decision he'd already made without me, and certainly not for me. "Everyone?" I asked quietly. "Or just Denise?" He sighed. A long, exhausted sigh I'd heard my whole life whenever he had to choose between me and her. And he always chose her. "Bella, don't make this a fight," he murmured. My chest tightened. "I'm not making it a fight. I'm asking why my own father thinks it's normal to uninvite his daughter from a family holiday he knows means something to her." Silence. Then a different voice cut in. Not muffled, not distant. Loud. Clear. Cruel. "Because you're never grateful, Bella." Denise snapped. "Your father bought you a whole house, do you know how insane that is? And now you're acting like a victim because we want one peaceful dinner?" Peaceful. She meant a dinner where you don't exist. "Give me the phone," she demanded. Suddenly her voice blasted in my ear, full force. "You need to stop clinging to this family like we owe you something." I blinked. Once. Twice. My heartbeat thundered in my throat. "I owe him something?" I whispered. "Is that the story now?" She scoffed. Your siblings don't cause problems. You do. They don't drain your father's energy. You do. And frankly, you should be grateful you even got that house. There it was. The truth. The truth behind every passive-aggressive smile, every sweetie, every fake politeness. She never saw me as a daughter, not even as family. I was a nuisance she had tolerated, only because Dad insisted. A voice my father's muffled and desperate. That's enough, Denise. But she didn't stop. Mark, she needs to hear this. She needs to learn her place. Her place. Something cold slid down my spine. I said nothing, because I wanted to hear everything. People reveal themselves when they think you're too stunned to respond. She thinks she can just show up and be treated the same as my children? Denise scoffed. Please. She's nearly 30 and still needs attention. It's pathetic. The words hit me harder than any shout ever could. Dad tried again. Weaker. Denise, please. He wasn't defending me. He was managing her, and that realization hurt more than every insult she'd just thrown. My voice finally returned. Quiet. Smooth. Dangerously calm. Dad. He went silent. Is this how you feel too? I heard him swallow. I heard his shame. But shame doesn't heal wounds. Shame doesn't rewrite decades. Sweetie, you're overreacting. I closed my eyes. There it was. The dismissal, the gaslighting, the rewriting of everything I felt. My grip tightened around the phone. I'm done, Dad. My voice didn't shake. Not anymore. If you wanted me gone, all you had to do was say so. He inhaled sharply. Bella, wait. But I hung up. Not angrily. Not dramatically. Just quietly. Like closing a door I knew would never open the same way again. I stood there, breathing in the silence. My hands trembled. Not with fear, but with clarity. They had finally said the truth out loud. And now, I could respond with mine. In that moment, I realized something painful but freeing. They weren't pushing me away anymore. They had already let go years ago. I was the one holding on. And now, I was ready to let go too. What I didn't know yet is that letting go was only the beginning of the war I was about to start. I didn't sleep that night. Not out of sadness, those tears had dried years ago, but out of something colder, sharper, a clarity that felt almost dangerous. Around 3 a.m. I sat at my dining table with my laptop open, the blue glow turning my anger into calculation. I typed one sentence into the search bar. Can you revoke a gift if the family member is ungrateful? I expected vague answers, maybe Reddit threads full of people venting. What I didn't expect was a flood of legal articles, actual laws, real cases, Arizona, California, Texas, and then Michigan, my state. I clicked on an article titled, Gross Ingratitude Laws Revoking Gifts Due to Hostility or Rejection. My breath hitched. I read faster and faster. A donor could revoke a gift, especially real estate, if the recipient displayed gross ingratitude, including humiliation, rejection, emotional harm, exclusion from family events, hostile behavior, manipulation, coercion. Every line felt like it had been written directly about Denise. One sentence flashed like a warning sign. Excluding the donor from major family events immediately after receiving a significant gift is considered textbook grounds for revocation. Have noon of quietude experies. I sat back, staring at the words. Textbook grounds. My father had bought me a house, then uninvited me from Thanksgiving. Sent at the insistence of a woman who treated me like dirt. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from power. For the first time, I had leverage. A new thought bloomed in my mind. If they can pull me out like I'm disposable, maybe I don't need to play the good daughter anymore. I gathered every document I could think of, closing statements, transfer receipts, text messages where Dad reminded me of his generosity, financial conversations with Denise lurking behind his words. I organized it all into folders labeled house transfer, verbal harassment, emotional exclusion, pattern of manipulation, Denise, hostility timeline. By dawn, I had created something resembling a case file. At 8:02 a.m., I walked into the law firm. The receptionist looked up. Good morning. How can we help you? I placed my folder on the counter. I need to speak to an attorney about revoking a property gift due to family hostility. Her eyebrows lifted barely. She'd seen worse. but she definitely didn't expect me to say it with such calm precision. I was taken to a conference room. 10 minutes later, a man with silver hair and dark, sharp eyes walked in. Bella? Yes. I'm Attorney Marshall. I understand you're dealing with a complicated family matter. I didn't waste time. I slid the folder across the table. It's more than complicated. My father bought me a house, then told me not to come to Thanksgiving because my stepmother doesn't want me there. I want to know if I can revoke the transfer. It's nothing. He flipped through the documents silently, page after page, text after text, timeline after timeline. He paused, tapping the table slowly with his pen. Finally, Bella, this is one of the cleanest cases of gross ingratitude I've seen. A shiver ran through me. In Michigan, he continued, gifts of real estate fall under conditional transfer if there's coercion, hostility, or emotional rejection. Being uninvited to a major family holiday, especially immediately after the gift? That's substantial. I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. So I can take the house back? His eyes met mine. Without question. A long silence filled the room. Then he leaned forward. Do you want to pursue damages as well? Emotional distress? The harassment from your stepmother? I felt my jaw tighten. No, I don't want money from them. I paused. But I want the message to be loud and clear. He understood. Then let's file the revocation. He typed rapidly, the document printed with each cold, deliberate word. When he handed me the pen, I looked down at the signature line. I remembered Dad calling me sweetie. I remembered Denise telling me to know my place. I remembered every holiday I spent helping instead of belonging. Every time I stood behind a camera instead of being in the picture. Then I signed. In one stroke, the house was legally mine again, uninfluenced, uncontested. Attorney Marshall gathered the papers. We'll file this immediately. They'll be notified within 3-5 business days. Good, I said quietly. Let the holiday season begin. He raised an eyebrow. You sound resolved. I let out a dry laugh. Resolved is a polite word. Let's just say, I'm done letting them treat me like I'm temporary. As I walked out of the law office, something inside me felt different. Not lighter. Stronger. Sharper. Freer. My phone buzzed. A message from Dad. I didn't open it. Not yet. The next move would be mine. And for once in my life, they were the ones who had no idea what was coming. 3 days passed before the storm hit. On the morning of the 4th day, while I was watering the plants in my living room, my phone buzzed with an email notification from Attorney Marshall. Subject, notice served. Attached, proof of delivery to Mark and Denise Anderson. My father and stepmother had officially received the revocation notice. I stared at the confirmation for a moment, feeling nothing but a low, steady certainty like the quiet before thunder. 30 minutes later, my phone exploded. First came a call from Dad, then another, then another. For the first time in years, I didn't answer. Let him sweat. Let him feel silence for once. By noon, the calls switched to Denise's number, her name flashing violently across the screen like a warning label. I ignored those too. But at 1:17 p.m., a text came in that made my eyebrows lift. From my half-sister Haley. What did you do? Mom is screaming and throwing things. Dad looks like he's going to faint. I typed back one sentence. They can explain it to you. Seconds later, Haley. They said you're stealing the house. Stealing? Of course. I replied. You can't steal what's already yours. I didn't expect her to understand. She had grown up drenched in Denise's syrupy poison, so naturally she would choke on the truth. Then the text stopped. Silence returned. But it didn't last. At 3 p.m., someone else texted me. Aunt Marlene, Dad's older sister, the only person who had ever treated me like I belonged. Her message was short. Bella, honey, I think you should know. Your father and Denise are panicking. They came to Thanksgiving rehearsal dinner trembling. And your stepmother has been blaming you for everything for years. I called her. She answered immediately. Bella. Oh, sweetie, I'm so glad you're okay. I'm fine, Aunt Marlene, I said. But it sounds like they're not. She sighed long, heavy. Bella, you don't know the half of it. Denise has been telling people for years that you're ungrateful, dramatic, unstable. She's been poisoning the family against you. There it was. A truth I had always suspected but never heard spoken aloud. And your father? I asked quietly. Another sigh. I love your dad. But he's weak when it comes to Denise. He lets her run the house, always has. I closed my eyes. It stung more hearing it confirmed than I expected. And that's not all, Aunt Marlene continued. My hand tightened around my phone. What else? I overheard Denise bragging to her sister once. She said, and I quote, "As soon as Mark is gone, everything is mine. Even that house he bought for Bella. One way or another, it'll come back to my kids." My blood ran cold. My house. The house I was supposed to feel grateful for. The house Dad used as a way to guilt me. Was already being spoken of like Denise's future property. So that's why she wanted me gone, I whispered. She wants you erased, Marlene said. From the family, from the will, from everything. Something inside me snapped into clarity. It was never about Thanksgiving. Never about me causing tension. It was about removing me as quickly and quietly as possible. But that wasn't even the end of what Marlene told me. And Bella, that's not all. My breath caught. What else? Denise's niece, Lydia, works with your dad at the firm. My jaw tightened. I remembered Lydia. 2 sweet smiles. Comments that always felt rehearsed. She overheard your stepmother bragging that your father was easy to steer, that she could manage him and keep him in line. I went still. And worst of all, Aunt Marlene whispered, Denise said your father buying you the house was a mistake she planned to fix. The room blurred for a second. A mistake. I had been a mistake to them. An inconvenience. A problem to be managed. I felt the burn rise in my chest, not pain. Purpose. Thank you, I said quietly, for telling me the truth. Oh, honey, she replied, voice soft with sorrow. I should have told you sooner. When the call ended, I stood in the middle of my living room, feeling the pieces fall into place, one by one. This wasn't just a rejection, it was a strategy. Denise had spent years slowly isolating me, turning Dad against me, dismissing me, undermining me, painting me as ungrateful, preparing the narrative long before Thanksgiving, and Dad had let her. He didn't protect me. He didn't even see me. To him, love meant silence. To her, love meant control. But to me, love meant showing up. And I had shown up for them my entire life, even when they slammed the door in my face. My phone buzzed again. This time it was my father. A text. Bella, please call me. We need to talk. This is all a huge misunderstanding. I stared at the message. A misunderstanding. The same excuse he had used my entire life to smooth over Denise's cruelty. But he didn't understand something. This time, I wasn't smoothing anything. This time, the truth was coming out whether they could handle it or not. And the next 48 hours would explode their perfectly crafted family image into pieces they could never glue back together again. I didn't plan to go to my father's house. I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of seeing me rattled. But when the texts and missed calls kept coming, Dad pleading, Denise threatening, my siblings panicking, I realized something. They weren't just scared. They were scrambling. And when guilty people scramble, they reveal everything. So I drove there. The Anderson house glowed with warm, golden lights. Pumpkins lined the porch. The table inside was already set with fall-themed napkins and matching centerpieces. A perfect family Thanksgiving scene, built on a lie. I rang the doorbell. The silence inside was immediate and sharp, like the house itself held its breath. Then the door swung open. Dad stood there, eyes red, hair disheveled, mouth trembling slightly. Bella, he whispered, thank God you came. Before he could finish, Denise appeared behind him. Her smile was venom wrapped in lipstick. Well, she said, crossing her arms. Look who finally decided to show up. The little princess who loves drama. Dad flinched. Denise, stop. No, I said calmly. Let her talk. She's much more honest when she's cruel. Denise's eyes flashed. Oh please, you think you can just walk back in here after what you did? After trying to steal the house back? I tilted my head. Legally revoke, not steal. Words matter. Her cheeks flushed with fury. You ungrateful brat, she snapped. Your father gave you everything, and this is how you repay him? By destroying our holiday? Our holiday? I repeated softly. You mean the holiday I was uninvited from? Because of you? Dad stepped forward, voice shaking. Bella, please, let's just talk. Calmly. I didn't mean to. I cut him off. You didn't mean to what, Dad? You didn't mean to choose her over me? Or you didn't mean to get caught doing it? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Denise scoffed. Oh, don't act so wounded. You were never part of this family the way my children are. You've always been separate. The word hit the room like a crack of thunder. Separate. I took a slow breath. Interesting choice of words, Denise. Because I happen to have documentation, text messages, emails, witness statements of you spending years trying to make sure I stayed separate. Her eyes widened. Dad looked at me sharply. What documentation? I reached into my bag, pulled out a folder, and laid it on the entry table. In here, I said, is a 2-year timeline of Denise manipulating you, Dad, telling people I'm unstable, convincing the family I'm ungrateful, and openly admitting she planned to take back my house after you died. Thank yous to me. Dad froze completely. Denise's face drained of color. That's absurd, she sputtered. You're making things up. Oh? I lifted a page. Should I read the part where you texted your sister that I'm a loose end that needs to be tied eventually? Dad whipped toward her. Denise, did you say that? She stammered. That was a figure of speech. Or, I continued, the part where you demanded Dad uninvite me from Christmas last year so your children wouldn't feel overshadowed? Dad's jaw clenched. And here, I added, is where you told your niece Lydia that you were going to make sure the house returned to the right children. Dad stared at her in horror. You said that? About the house I bought for Bella? You wanted to steal it from her? She snapped. She lunged toward me, finger in my face. You don't deserve it. There it was. The mask ripped off. The truth laid bare. Dad grabbed her arm. Denise, stop. She yanked away. No, she needs to hear this. Bella has been a problem since the day I met her. She thinks she's better than us. I've literally never said that, I replied. Liar, she hissed. You walk around acting so perfect. Dad shouted now. Why did you hate her so much? Denise spun on him. Because she reminds you of her mother. Silence slammed into the room. Dad's face twisted with something between grief and rage. You resented her because she's my daughter with Anna? No, she spit out. I resented her because she kept you from giving my children everything they deserved. There it was. The core. The poison. The truth she'd buried under polished smiles and fake sweetness. I stared at her. You never wanted me here, I said quietly. You wanted my absence. You wanted my erasure. She sneered, finally catching on. Dad looked like he might collapse. Denise, you manipulated me into hurting my own daughter. Oh, don't be dramatic, she snapped. You never fought very hard for her anyway. The look on his face. That was the moment he broke. He whispered, voice cracking. I should have protected her. And I didn't. I stepped closer, meeting his eyes. Dad, I said. I didn't come here to make you pick sides. I came here to show you the truth. But what you do with it, that's on you. Before he could answer, someone else came downstairs. My half-brother, Ethan. He looked between us, confused and scared. What's happening? He asked. Denise pointed at me like a deranged prosecutor. She's trying to tear this family apart. I raised an eyebrow. Funny. I thought you did that years ago. Ethan swallowed. Is it true, Mom? Did you really say those things? She snapped. Don't you dare take her side. I am your mother. But she's my sister, he whispered. And even he looked ashamed for the first time. I exhaled shakily. This was enough. I grabbed my bag. I'm done, I said softly. No more begging. No more waiting. No more accepting scraps of love. Dad stepped forward, eyes glassy. Bella, please don't leave like this. I want to fix this. I stared at him. You can't fix something you never tried to build. His face crumpled. But I want to start, I want to try now, Denise screamed. Mark, don't you dare. If you take her side. He turned on her. If I take her side? Denise, I'm her father. Something I should have acted like years ago. Denise went still, cold, silent, calculated. You'll regret this, she hissed. You'll lose everything. Dad straightened, voice steady. No, Denise. I think for the first time, I might actually get something back. A family, a daughter. If he didn't lose her forever. Denise stormed upstairs, slamming the bedroom door so hard the frame shook. Dad looked at me like he was trying to memorize my face. Bella, please. Let me make amends. Let me be better. I held his gaze. You want to be better? I whispered. Then prove it. Not with words. With actions. And then I walked out. The cold night air hit my face like a rebirth. Like oxygen after suffocation. Like freedom after a lifetime of silent confinement. Behind me, the perfect family Thanksgiving scene cracked open. And finally, the truth spilled out. But the war wasn't over. Not even close. Because what happened the next day would change every relationship in that house forever. The morning after the confrontation, my house was silent, but not the empty kind. The liberating kind. The kind that comes after you finally stop holding your breath. I woke up late, sunlight pushing gently through my curtains. For once, I didn't feel that familiar heaviness in my chest, the weight of wanting a family that didn't want me back. I made coffee, sat at my kitchen island, enjoyed the stillness. And that's when the pounding on my door began. I didn't move. A few seconds later, my phone buzzed. Dad. Bella, please. I'm outside. I just want to talk. Has it fall the days? Not Denise. Not the siblings. Just Dad. I opened the door slowly. He looked older. Not physically, emotionally. His shoulders were slumped, his eyes bloodshot, his voice unsteady. Bella, he whispered. I'm so sorry. I didn't invite him in. He noticed. I know I have no right to ask for your time, but I need you to hear me. I crossed my arms. I already heard everything I needed last night. He swallowed hard. Sweetie, Bella, I let Denise twist things for years. I let her silence you. I let her push you aside. I didn't stand up for you. I know that. Why? The words slipped out sharper than I intended. He rubbed his face with both hands. Because I was tired, weak, afraid of conflict, afraid of losing the family I built after your mother passed. And I wasn't part of that family? I asked quietly. He closed his eyes. You were. You are. But Denise, she made me believe you were okay without me, that you didn't need as much, that you were strong, independent, self-sufficient. So I became invisible. I finished. His voice cracked. I didn't realize how much I hurt you. Not until last night. I stared at him. He looked like a man who finally saw the wreckage he'd been walking past for years. He took a shaky breath. Bella, I want to rebuild this. Please, give me a chance. I studied him. Really studied him. For the first time, Dad wasn't dismissive. Or defensive. He wasn't hiding behind Denise's shadow. He was just a flawed man facing the consequences of his choices. I'm not saying yes, I said. But I'm not saying no either. Relief washed over his face so visibly I almost felt it myself. But, I added, this time, rebuilding is on your shoulders, not mine. He nodded quickly. I'll prove it, he said. I'll do whatever it takes. I stepped back toward my door. One thing, I said. Yes? You need to get your house in order. Without me in it. His shoulders sagged. He understood exactly what I meant. And Denise? He asked quietly. That's your marriage, I said. I won't tell you what to do. But you now know what she's capable of. He exhaled shakily. I'll handle it. But the truth was, he wouldn't be the one to handle it. Because while Dad was trying to make amends, everything inside the Anderson household was tearing itself apart. That same afternoon, my phone buzzed again. This time from Ethan, my half-brother. His message was hesitant. Ethan. Bella, can we talk? I need to tell you something. Curiosity pushed me to agree. We met at a cafe not far from my house. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes, fingers fidgeting with his sleeve. Mom's losing it, he said before the waiter even finished pouring water. She's been screaming all morning, throwing things, blaming everyone. Sounds typical, I said. She told me if I ever speak to you again, I'm no longer her son. He swallowed. And that's when I realized. She doesn't love us. She controls us. He looked down. And I let her control my opinion of you too. His voice broke. I'm sorry, Bella. I should have stood up for you. I see it now. I didn't expect that. Not from him. Thank you, I said softly. He looked relieved, almost grateful. I want a relationship with you, he whispered. A real one. Not one filtered through Mom. I nodded slowly. We'll see. One step at a time. He smiled, small, genuine, a little fragile. Fair. Then came the message I knew was inevitable. From Denise. A single line. You will regret this. I laughed out loud. Not because it was funny, because it was predictable. 20 minutes later, I got messages from blocked numbers saying things like, ungrateful brat, you're tearing this family apart. Ha, you should be ashamed. Then, one final text. Enjoy your house? It won't last. I took screenshots. Sent them to Attorney Marshall. He responded with, "Document everything. Do not reply." I didn't plan to reply anyway. Denise was unraveling. And people who unravel show their true nature. That evening, Aunt Marlene called again. "You caused an earthquake, kiddo," she said. "Everyone's talking. And people are taking your side." "Really?" I asked, surprised. She laughed. "Oh, honey, you think no one saw the way Denise treated you? They just stayed quiet because your father tolerated it. But now? The whole family knows the truth." Her words sank into me slowly, like warm water soaking into frozen skin. For the first time in years, I wasn't the afterthought. I wasn't invisible. I wasn't the problem. I was the one who finally told the truth. That night, as I climbed into bed, my phone buzzed. A final text from Dad. "Bella, thank you for giving me another chance. I won't waste it." I stared at the message for a long moment. This wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was something new. Something fragile. Something possible. For the first time in my life, I wasn't begging to be seen. I was choosing who got to stay. And tomorrow would be the day I made my final move. One that would rewrite everything they thought they knew about me. Thanksgiving morning arrived cold and sharp, the kind of weather that makes everything feel a little more honest. I woke up earlier than usual, brewed a cup of coffee, and stood outside on my porch wrapped in a blanket. The neighborhood was quiet. Chimneys smoked. Families cooked. Kids laughed somewhere down the street. It should have hurt spending the holiday alone. But it didn't. For the first time in my life, the loneliness wasn't a punishment. It was a choice, a reclamation, a beginning. Around 10 a.m., my phone buzzed. "Dad again. Bella. I left the house. I couldn't stay there. I'm at the park near your street. Can we talk?" I took one long breath. Then I replied, "Come over." Minutes later, Dad appeared at my porch, hands shoved awkwardly in his jacket pockets, looking like a man who had aged years in one night. "Hi, sweetie," he said softly. "Just Bella," I corrected. "I'm not your sweetie right now." He winced. "Right, sorry, Bella." I stepped aside. He entered slowly, carefully, like he wasn't sure if he was welcome or if the house itself might push him out. It wasn't lost on me that this house, the one Denise planned to eventually steal from me, was now the place he sought refuge. We sat at my small dining table. He looked around like he was seeing my home for the first time, not as his gift, not as leverage, not as a responsibility, but as mine. He cleared his throat. "Denise moved out last night," he said quietly. My eyebrows lifted. "What?" He nodded. "She packed a suitcase, screamed about betrayal, called me useless, then drove off with the kids. She said she'd be staying with her sister." I stayed silent. Dad continued. I told her I couldn't live with someone who spent years manipulating me into hurting my own daughter. She didn't deny it. She didn't apologize. She just said I was weak." I studied him. "How do you feel?" He swallowed. "Tired. Relieved. Like someone finally opened a window." He paused. "And Bella, I know leaving her doesn't fix everything I did. I'm not trying to impress you or win you back." I looked at him. He took a shaking breath. "I'm trying to become someone worthy of being your father again." The room felt still heavy with a sincerity I wasn't expecting. Dad wasn't a dramatic man. He didn't cry easily. But today, he looked like someone who'd spent years choking on regret. "Bella," he whispered, voice cracking. "I'm sorry for letting you grow up alone in a house full of people. I'm sorry for letting Denise tear you down. I'm sorry I didn't defend you not once. I chose the wrong battles for decades." I blinked slowly. "You chose everyone but me," I replied softly. His eyes filled with tears. "I know. And I'll carry that for the rest of my life." Silence settled between us, a quiet, aching kind. Then he said the one thing I never thought I'd hear. "I want to rebuild our relationship. Slowly. Carefully. On your terms. If you'll let me." I leaned back, crossing my arms. "On my terms?" "Yes. At my a special to be sings presping. Abreen has 272s on the skettering. As wavy of some of Rand's passwords and sove with those pen marking myself. No exceptions?" He shook his head. "No exceptions." "Then, listen carefully," I said. He straightened, bracing himself. "These are my conditions. 1. No more silence. 2. No more letting other people speak for you. 3. No more guilt trips. 4. No more pretending everything is fine when it isn't. 5. And I am not just someone you come to when you need to feel like a hero. He nodded with every word, tears sliding down his cheeks. And, I added, voice steady, you show up. Consistently. Without Denise. Without excuses. Without disappearing when things get hard. I will, he whispered. I promise. And if you break that promise? His voice was barely a breath. Then I lose you forever. I nodded. Good. Then we understand each other. He exhaled shakily, like he'd been waiting his entire life for these boundaries to be spoken aloud. And then, something shifted in him. Something settled. Something aligned. Can we start today? He asked quietly. Maybe share Thanksgiving together? Just the two of us? I looked at him for a long moment. Years of memories swirled through me, some painful, some soft, all tangled. My heart didn't leap. It didn't melt. But it opened just enough. Yes, I said finally. We can. Relief washed over his face so intensely it almost broke me. We cooked together. Nothing fancy, just roasted chicken, mashed potatoes, and warm rolls from the bakery. But Dad kept glancing at me, like he couldn't believe I was still there. Like he was afraid I might vanish if he blinked too long. At the end of the meal, he said something I'll never forget. Bella, thank you for not giving up on the possibility of me. I smiled, small, real. I didn't do it for who you were, Dad. I did it for who you might still become. He nodded. And for once, we understood each other perfectly. That night, after he left, I sat alone at my dining table and breathed deeply. I realized something important. My final move wasn't the legal victory, or the confrontation, or exposing Denise's manipulation. My final move was choosing myself, setting boundaries, demanding respect, rewriting the rules of every relationship in my life. I didn't win because I hurt them. I won because I stopped letting them hurt me. And for the first time in 27 years, I felt free. Completely. Absolutely. Finally.